Hey everybody, welcome to my first review. With my reviews, I'm going to try to go in more detail because movies are a combination of so many moving pieces, I think they all deserve to be acknowledged. So let's get started. So, with the popularity of Halloween, director Sean S. Cunningham wants to ride the horror hype train. So he gets Victor Miller, who has never written a horror movie before, to write the script. For inspiration, Miller sees Halloween and discovers the horror formula. Horny teens killed off one by one. And with that, we start the film with a flashback in 1958. Now we get our first kills in the movie, which don't really show much and are weak in gore and impact, which is surprising for a movie known for its gore. After a quick gut slice off camera, we get a bad slow-mo close-up of a no-name girl, and those are the first two kills in the film. It is almost odd how bland these kills are with some of the other amazing death scenes in the movie. After the intro, we are in present-day 1980 and introduced to our first counselor, Annie, walking around what seems to be a small town. After asking around, she gets to ride closer to camp. This is where we get some of the backstory about how the camp is cursed with fires, poisoned water, and we hear about the murders that took place during the intro. Now we're introduced to some of our other soon-to-be dead teens, with some weird music in my opinion. Also introducing us to our camp owner Steve, who gives off a very creepy vibe, almost making you try to believe he is the killer. And lastly, we're introduced to our last three counselors, and now we're going to real spoilers. Out of our 7 counselors, Annie is the first killed. But in my opinion, is also the most developed teen in the movie. The rest, excluding Ned, are just bland characters. There isn't anything interesting or compelling about them, except Annie, played by Robbie Morgan, is the only one with a designated job that we hear in the movie.
I'll be cooking for 50 kids and 10 staff.
We even hear from the others that she is supposed to be a good cook.
Too bad Annie never showed up. She was supposed to be quite a good cook.
Yeah, well,
She loves working with children, and she has big dreams for the future.
guess I always wanted to work with children. But when you've had a dream as long as I have, you'll do anything.
Okay, not a compelling character, but it's the best we got. Now we have Ned, played by Mark Nelson, is our next kill, found with his throat slit in the top bunk over his friends Jack and Marcy getting it on. Ned is also our comic relief, and is a danger to the people around him.
Ta-da!
Are you crazy?
We do get more than just laughs with Ned. There is some character development, because we see him get sad after we see Jack and Marcy kiss. Could this be jealousy for not having a girlfriend, or does he have secret feelings for Marcy? We may never know, because this is the last scene we see him in. Now, Ned is an interesting character, because he really made the comic relief more popular in the horror genre. But now, sadly, our 2 most interesting characters are dead. The rest of the teens are pretty stereotypical, but the kills get much better from here on, so that makes up for it. With Jack all alone, he's perfect bait for our killer to strike. With, in my opinion, the best kill in the movie. I would say now is a good time to bring up that all the special effects are done by Tom Savini and his assistant Tasto Stavrakis. They do a great job throughout the film. The Kevin Bacon death scene in particular took a very long time to set up, so they only had one shot. They had to make a fake neck and chest and had to have Bacon's head through a hole in the mattress, with Savini, his assistant, and Richard Gere standing in as our killer all under the bed. There was a malfunction with the blood tubing which could have ruined the shot, but some quick thinking was able to save the scene. And with Jack dead, our killer catches up with Marcy in the bathroom. Her characterization in the film is basically just Jack's girlfriend, which doesn't save her from getting an axe to the face from our mystery killer. Another beautifully done kill by Savini. The makeup and special effects are really well done. With 3 dead counselors, it's time to finally catch up with our great camp owner, Creepy Steve, who has been in this movie for about 90 seconds. The only thing this scene shows is that Steve isn't the killer, and the witches have the hots for him. Well, back to our counselors in the middle of their strip Monopoly game. It's cut short to some heavy rain, and Brenda takes the opportunity to head home to sleep. After getting ready for bed, Brenda begins to hear someone screaming for help. she goes to investigate, being led to the archery range where the killer turns on the lights, attacking Brenda off screen. All we get is a scream, but this is where she dies. But her scream does spook our remaining two, who go off looking for her, but all they find is a bloody axe in her bed. Alice is now understandably afraid, and Bill is stereotypically not. They argue a bit about what to do, and in the end, Bill convinces her to relax and wait for Steve. Oh look, Steve is finally back. Maybe he will save them. Nope, he's just dead. Okay. Well, it is odd we get two lackluster kills after two fantastic kills, but don't worry, the final kills won't disappoint. So our final two split up again for reasons that don't really matter. What does matter is that Bill is taking a long time, so Alice decides to go looking for him. After looking around, Alice does find Bill with his throat slit and stuck to a door. It is disappointing we don't see him die, but getting to view the body makes up for it, because it is brutal. But anyway, this leads to one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. Alice is freaking out and tries to block the door. First, she ties a rope to the handle, which seems effective. Then she starts stacking chairs. One falls over, and she has replaced it with another chair. I love this scene, because it's very realistic, and I think anyone in this scenario would do the exact same thing. So now Alice hides in the kitchen, and then Brenda's body comes crashing through the window, scaring her even more. She finally feels some safety when she sees headlights through a window, thinking it's Steve since it's the same car. But some lady comes out that we learn is named Mrs. Voorhees, and she changes the whole tone. She feels safe and secure, almost a possible victim. After talking to Alice, Mrs. Voorhees goes inside and sees Brenda and gives a suspicious reaction, then immediately starts talking about the boy who drowned, and she reveals he was her son, named Jason. At this point, we have a complete character shift, and Mrs. Voorhees attacks Alice, blaming her and all the others she killed for Jason's death. Alice fights her off and gets away. Then we get a great scene where Mrs. Voorhees talks to herself as if she was Jason, telling her to kill them. It's actually pretty damn scary.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live. I won't, Jason. I won't.
Betsy Palmer, who plays Mrs. Voorhees, thought this movie would flop. It only did it because she really needed the money at the time, but even so, she gives a fantastic performance. Mrs. Voorhees is actually scary and believable, and probably the best character in the whole movie. When she speaks as Jason, it's really unsettling, and you understand she really loved her son, and when he died, it destroyed her. Now we're back to Alice, who is running around finding all the other bodies left behind, and fighting off Mrs. Voorhees as she goes. The action is just interesting, to say the least, but it's the 80s, so we can't really blame them. Mrs. Voorhees does bitch slap Alice around in one scene, which is pretty funny. But after some more fighting, we get our last kill. During the scuffle, Mrs. Voorhees drops her machete, Alice picks it up, and in one swing slices her head clean off. This kill is great. The hands moving, grasping for life, and the body drop is beautiful and so well done. So now we're in our last few minutes of the movie. Alice, for some reason, went onto the lake and is waking up in a boat. The cops have arrived, and the music is mellow. This really seems like it's over, but we finally get one final scare. Jason jumps out of the water and drags Alice down with him. But turns out it was all a dream because Jason's dead. Well, at least until part 2. Now, this movie does have a lot of flaws, but also does a lot right. And the original critical reception for the film was poor, but as time went on, an audience and critics alike found what makes this movie great: the score, the special effects, and Betsy Palmer. Even with bad reviews and a low budget of only $550,000, it finished domestically with over $39 million and worldwide with another $20 million, giving the total of $59 million. I mentioned the score earlier in the film because it is very important for every movie out there. So it is very interesting that there is little amount of music. The composer Henry Manfredi talks about how he could have added something in the aerial scene or the creepy moment with Steve, but it is all left silent, and it really builds the tension and gives the killer an identity. Each track also builds from the same base, but it is also unique for each encounter, so it keeps it familiar but also fresh. And an interesting fact, Manfredi got inspiration from Mrs. Voorhees talking to herself. He used the key from Kill and the Ma from Mommy, and used it to make the iconic soundtrack that we associate with Jason. Now, I've already mentioned and praised Savini enough so far, but I do want to mention again that his effects in this movie are so well done, and even better than some of the sequels that came out, showing his talent, and it just sucks he didn't come back until part 4. The acting as a whole is passable. Most of them do fairly well. I'd say the worst acting in the movie is Marcy's death scene. That scream she does is just terrible. But Betsy Palmer does shine in this movie, And she is the one with the most experience. It really shows. I really love her performance, which is funny because she really didn't think the movie was worth it and thought it was going to flop, but who could guess it was still popular 30 years later.